Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zelotech, and iOS 17.5 has been out to the public for a few days now, and if you're a developer or beta tester, it's been out for over a week since it's the same build. But there's even more new features to talk about since the iOS 17.5 is out What's New video, and there's also additional issues that have been pretty major, some bugs to talk about, as well as the overall experience. I've been using it full-time on my 15 Pro Max, and based off the YouTube community poll, many of you have had very different experiences as well. So at the time of this video, there's over 18,000 votes and 320 comments, and I've read every single one of them to determine what the overall experience is like for everyone. So we'll talk about battery life and even read some of your comments toward the end of the video. First, though, let's talk about some news from Apple. iMessage went down the other day for a few hours on Thursday, and if you were having issues sending, sometimes it would work on my iPhone, then it would fail on my iPad, or it would just fail altogether. Apple actually had an outage with this, and currently they're having more outages. They're having an outage right now for weather. You'll see here they have available services, but you can see over the few days that there's different things going out as far as that goes. What they're doing on their server side, we're not really sure, but there's definitely some issues here. However, one good piece of news is they were able to prevent a lot of different potentially fraudulent transactions in the past 4 years. Apple released their annual report, and they say they saved up to $7 billion. So you can read all about this, how they've actually prevented much of this, and I'll publish this in the description below if you want to check it out. But you'll see here it says nearly 118,000 developer accounts terminated for potentially fraudulent activity, over 91,000 fraudulent developer account creations blocked, and nearly 374 million fraudulent customer accounts deactivated. So they're on top of this, and of course this is something they're going to have to fight for years. Now, something else that's a little bit different that I didn't mention for the new iPad review is the magnets. If we flip over the new iPad Pro, you'll see here, this is the latest one that's super thin. And if I bring magnet paper over the top of this, this is something MKBHD showed as well. The speakers are now round instead of oval. So if we move around here, they're a little bit different, and that's part of the reason you actually can't use the old Magic Keyboard with it. The magnets are in different locations, and while you technically can connect it to the Pogo Pin connector or the Smart connector, it just won't work properly to sort of hold on to the iPad itself. Another thing to note, though, that Mark Hess Brownlee actually showed is if we go to his Twitter account, where you can see this on Threads, and you'll see on his account he posted a video showing the same magnet paper here with linear magnets for the new folio case. So you can sort of adjust the overall height, and it just seems to work a little bit better if you have the folio case. So that's actually something that's really nice that they updated that I didn't show in the What's New or unboxing video. Apple Vision Pro is set to launch in China soon, as it seems Vision Pro has started appearing in Chinese regulatory databases. So it looks like the USA is first, China is second, maybe the EU is next, we don't really know. Also, if you are in the EU and you've been wanting to try third-party app stores, SetApp actually just made one that's available. However, it is invite-only, it seems, at this point, but they do have a SetApp app store in the EU if you can sideload those apps. So that's something that's a little bit different. This week, Apple also announced a ton of different updates coming soon to iOS 18. I made a separate video about this, but basically just like last year, they showed new accessibility features such as eye tracking, music haptics, as you can see here in the press release, and then also other features such as set up vocal shortcuts, vehicle motion cues for sickness to help prevent that, and quite a few other things. Like I mentioned, I did an in-depth video, but there are still many more changes that are expected for iOS 18. This is just the start. They show this off, and on June 10th, we'll actually see the full version where we'll see all of the new features that Apple shows off, and we'll get our hands on the first betas. Now, with iOS 17.5, there's a few new features to mention, as Apple updated a few different things for mobile device management, and a new mobile device management restriction is available to prevent installing apps through web distribution. So in the EU, you can install apps via the web if a developer chooses to allow that. And now if you use mobile device management, you can stop different apps from being installed that way. You can see this on Apple's website. On Apple's website, where it says What's New for Enterprise in iOS 17, if we scroll down, it's been updated with iOS 17, where it says the Photos app properly enforces restrictions against printing, sending wallpaper, and enabling iCloud photos, again for MDM managed devices. They've also improved the stability of updating apps while in single app mode, per app VPN connects reliably on first use now, and messages stay associated with the correct phone number on dual SIM services when you're using MDM. So these have all been updated. Why they don't just include this in a separate section in the first release notes, I'm not sure. But again, I'll link this in the description if you want to see it. This goes along with a bunch of security updates they released as well. For some reason, Apple takes time to publish this. They took probably an hour or so, and you'll see all of the latest releases here with iOS 17.5, iPadOS 17.5, iOS 16.7.8, which is just basically a security update. And if we go into this, there's about 15 different updates that make this important to install. Everything from Apple AVD to Find My to kernel updates, maps, and more. So you'll see some things for notes where the impact was an attacker with physical access to an iOS device may be able to access notes from the lock screen. The issue was addressed through improved state management, and then you can see the CVE number and who actually tipped them off to this issue. So you'll see all of the different ones here. Again, I'll link this in the description if you want to see all of these for yourself and what Apple fixed. To go along with the title of this video, this is major. iOS 17.5 has a few major bugs that Apple needs to fix as soon as possible. The first one is the worst one. Users are now reporting a bug that's causing photos that were deleted to reappear on devices. In some instances, users are seeing photos that were deleted years ago and then they suddenly show up again. And then it gets even worse as these photos can apparently resurface on devices that have been wiped and then resold or given to someone else. Mac Rumors reported on this to go along with it, and if we scroll down, some people have said that maybe they handed their phone to someone else, they installed their own iCloud account, not matching the original users, and some of their old photos appeared on the other iCloud account. This is probably one of the worst bugs I've heard of, and Apple needs to remedy this very, very quickly. There's another thing that happened that Apple fixed, thankfully, it seems server side, and if you go into settings and then we go down to privacy and security and then tracking, the allow apps to request to track option was grayed out for many users. For some reason it was just grayed out. Now it's been fixed and seems to be working for everyone, so at least one major bug has been fixed. Connectivity is also having some major issues this time around where sometimes data just won't even load, even if you have a connection. So whether or not you have a couple bars of signal, whether you're not you're on Wi-Fi or anything else, I find that I have to go in, turn on airplane mode, go back out, and then finally I can connect again. I've seen this reported from many different people. Other people are reporting that they can't connect to different phone calls or they just drop right away. Some users on Reddit reported this where iPhone 15 Pro 17.5 can't make phone calls. So this seems to be different places around the world having a similar issue. GPS sometimes doesn't locate properly on maps, at least for me, and Safari is freezing when loading. So sometimes if you just go to a website, if we just go to, well, let's go to Apple instead of iCloud, but if we just go to Apple, sometimes it doesn't load properly. Again, we'll try and do that again. There we are. And sometimes it won't load properly. Sometimes it works fine. What's causing this? I don't really know, but it's definitely some major bugs this time around. There's no mention if Apple even fixed the alarm clock bug, and based on some comments on that YouTube community poll that I showed you earlier, it looks like they still have a ways to go. If you have an alarm set, or maybe have one enabled or just activated, sometimes they're just not triggering. Apple's aware of that issue, and apparently they didn't fix it in 17.5. They haven't mentioned it, so I would expect an update pretty soon. The standby bug, while not as major, is still there. So if we put our phone on there, lock it, give it a second to go into standby, press and hold, we can't edit this typically. So we press and hold after you've edited it a single time. So maybe you change the color, you can go on any of these. If we press and hold, there's no way to edit. I have seen one person say that it's fixed, but I haven't been able to use it on any device. So it seems to be a big problem still. Additionally, there's reports of the Apple Watch not connecting properly either. So it's not connecting to the phone, data is not transferring, it's not recording properly. So there's some odd issues in this one, and we're not really sure why. At this point, Apple should have fixed a bunch of issues. Now, there are some bug fixes in this one, such as the video stutter bug. That seems to be fixed, and that's in photos if you're playing a video. Within a video, if we scroll through the timeline, this is just a video of one I took on a jet ski. As I scroll through, it's nice and smooth, where before it would jump all over the place and stutter and drop frame rate. So that's pretty good. It seems to be working properly this time around. A lot of stutters throughout the OS are fixed, with the exception of some of the older devices, but for the most part, that's much better. Releases this week, well, we could see iOS 17.5.1 soon. If Apple can't fix the Photos app issue server side, then they'll need to actually push an update to fix that. Maybe we could get a surprise weekend update or something at that point, but usually we'll get those pretty quickly when there's a major update or a major issue to fix with an update. So we could see that as soon as maybe Monday. Hopefully we see it that soon, and then maybe iOS 17.6 beta 1 the next day or something along those lines. So maybe by Tuesday or Wednesday, we have iOS 17.6 beta 1. Of course, we're just a few weeks away from June 10th, where we expect to see iOS 18 beta 1 for the first time. So not too long away from that, and I'm sure Apple's heavily focused on that with whatever new features are expected there. So lots for Apple to do here, lots for Apple to improve, and maybe they're just holding off until iOS 18 to really improve a lot of things. We can only hope for that, but they definitely need to fix those major bugs first. As far as camera improvements, well, let's take a look. Here's a few different photos comparing iOS 17.4.1 and iOS 17.5, and I don't really see much of a difference. Everything seems to be about the same, but let me know if you've noticed anything in the comments below. When it comes to performance and overall heat, well, performance seems to be pretty good. On the iPhone 11, I'm running 17.5. I had Minecraft running before, and let's see how fast it resumes. Seems to be pretty good in general. There we go. And overall frame rates seem to be pretty steady. So if we go down, you'll see here, things are nice and smooth. Everything's running probably at 60 Hertz, what the display can do, and it's what you would expect. No real major issues here going into things such as music. While you may see some stutter when it initially loads, that's pretty typical, especially on an older device. As we scroll through, it's nice and smooth. Now, of course, we don't have ProMotion on this device, but it is nice and smooth on the devices that do have it. So as we scroll through, it seems nice and smooth on the ProMotion devices, and it's incredibly smooth on the new iPad. So they've done something there with the M4 where just the scrolling alone is incredibly smooth. So let's see if we can go over here. So side by side, there's something even smoother about this new iPad that's just unbelievably smooth. So that's really nice to see. Overall heat of the devices seems to be much better. At least for me this time around, it's staying nice and cool. I have seen a few reports that say it seems to be a little warmer, but without physically measuring that, it's hard to tell the difference. But let's take a quick look like we do every week and see if there's much of a difference just from one sitting idle compared to one that I've been using here. With 17.5, we're sitting right around 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and with 17.4.1, we're at about 4 degrees cooler at 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Again, on 17.5, we're at about 33 degrees Celsius compared to, well, 30.5 degrees Celsius. So we have about a 3 to 4 degree difference, not much at all, just from using one that's in my hand here compared to idle. That's quite good compared to what we've had the previous weeks, where we're in the 95 to 100 degree Fahrenheit range. When it comes to overall benchmarks, let's go ahead and go into Geekbench 6. And run this now. I've had some odd results, so we'll talk about that once this completes. Benchmarks finished, and it currently is at 2,893 for single core, 7,141 for multi-core. Now, the odd thing is, before I ran this a couple times earlier today and had really terrible results for multi-core, 5,968. I did a hard reboot of the device and then ran it just now, and it's improved quite a bit. So some really odd things going on. I ran it twice before and had pretty low results. Right now it seems to be doing pretty normal, but before it was doing something odd. So if you're having issues and it's running a little slow, I would try a hard reboot or just reboot the device and see if it improves. When it comes to battery life, well, let's go into our settings, go to battery health, and you'll see I'm down to 98% as far as the maximum capacity with 188 cycles. You can see additional details here with Coconut battery, which says I'm at 100%, so depending on what that's showing, but either way, it seems to be doing okay as far as that goes, but my battery life in general is just not great. You'll see yesterday I had 4 hours and 18 minutes of screen active time, 3 hours and 38 minutes of screen idle time. Just with YouTube and home and lock screen, I used about 100% of my battery. I had to charge it multiple times. Today, I'm at 1 hour and 24 minutes of screen active time, 1 hour and 45 minutes of screen idle time. It started to back up, it seems, and I'm at 65%. So I'm not getting great battery life, but I haven't had great battery life for a little while. But the past couple days have been worse than normal. However, that's not the case for everyone. Let's take a look at Cameron's battery life. Thanks for sending that in. This is on an iPhone 15 Pro Max with 96% battery health, and you'll see it's doing better than mine at 6 hours and 8 minutes of screen active time, 1 hour and 55 minutes of screen idle time, and he used about 75% of his battery. Almost double or so the battery life I'm getting, so I'm not sure what's going on with mine. My battery life on the latest iPad is actually pretty good since restoring from a backup, but on the iPhone it's pretty horrendous for me, so hopefully it improves after that hard reboot. Now, if you're wondering if you should install iOS 17.5, well, it's hard to recommend this one right now because there's so many odd bugs, especially with that photo bug. However, the security updates are important, but I would say if you're on iOS 17.4.1, you can stay there at least for a little bit, and hopefully Apple will bring along maybe 17.5.1 to sort of fix all these bugs that we've been having. So it's a very odd situation this time around and worse than normal. Now, as far as what you had to say about it, some people say it's great, some say that it's not, but let's take a look at some of your comments. Ruben Maldonado 9679 said, 17.5 here and my battery is awesome. Went 2 days and a half without a charge. Tuesday 2 a.m. to Thursday around 5 p.m. iPhone 15 Pro Max. Sansitha Rathnayaka said, and hopefully I'm saying that properly, everything is good in iOS 17.5, but I would say the battery life is worse. That's the only issue. Mark Valesco 4011 said, I had problems with cellular connectivity immediately after I updated. I would only stay at 5G and not 5G plus, had to reset network settings to resolve the issue. Battery is almost the same. I also experienced phantom airdrop notifications the first day. Greggy3660 said, finally I get all-day battery life. I still have the web page that freezes with Safari. The first day I installed 17.5, I had a few odd things happen, like not being able to get out of airplane mode, but hasn't happened since. iPhone 14 Pro Max. Speedy One said, have voicemail issues on 4 different iPhones, different owners. Sometimes my iPhone alarm will not go off and go into automatic snooze. Battery life has now dramatically improved for me on both my iPhone 14 Plus and iPad 9 since installing 17.5. Very pleased with this update overall. Advic V said, I'm using an iPhone 12. The battery life seems slightly improved, but the main thing I've noticed is the performance. Switching between apps and multitasking is very smooth. So that's everything with iOS 17.5 so far. Hopefully Apple remedies those major issues pretty quickly, and we'll just have to wait and see what they do next week. Let me know if you're having any additional issues, or maybe you found features I haven't mentioned. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do, and if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.